Spine. The game follows Redline, a street artist who is fitted with a sentient combat implant called Spine, as she fights against an oppressive AI regime to find her captured brother. The game combines elements of gun fu, third-person shooter, and cyberpunk, and is inspired by the John Wick films. Players take on the role of the female protagonist, Redline, a rebellious graffiti artist who acquires gun fu skills after receiving the titular spinal implant, which serves as her sentient AI companion, and gives her new combat abilities throughout the game. Redline must rescue her captive brother from the autocratic AI regime known as Tensor, while fighting street thugs, mafia bosses, and trained assassins, some of whom are also similarly augmented by implants. The game runs on Unreal Engine 5, and also uses its own custom data shaders and Neki's proprietary 3D animation software called Cascadeur. The developers have cited the John Wick film series and the works of John Woo, who popularized the gun fu genre in Hong Kong cinema, as main inspirations for the game. In late 2023, a 9-episode webtoon, which serves as a prologue to the game's storyline, was released. In April 2024, Variety reported that Neki, in collaboration with Story Kitchen, was planning to develop a television series adaptation of the game. Game director Dmitry Pimenov remarked that Spine would be a transmedia project, with webcomics, merchandise, board games, and potential film and television adaptations being planned alongside the game. It is scheduled for a 2025 release. Crimson Desert is officially on the way, with launch window now set for late 2025. The new open-world action-adventure from Black Desert Online developer Pearl Abyss promises to take us on a sprawling journey in an epic fantasy world as we follow the story of protagonist Cliff. Crimson Desert is set in a medieval fantasy world, on a continent called Pywell. Cliff, the main character, is a mercenary who finds himself beleaguered by the burdens of leadership and painful memories of his past. Initially announced all the way back in 2019, confirmation of the latest release window came in a fresh announcement trailer that gave us another brief look at the story and setting that awaits us. From everything we've seen so far, it's certainly shaping up to be one of the most exciting new games headed our way. With various teasers and gameplay footage out there for us to explore, we know we can expect boss fights, and get stuck into all manner of side activities in the world such as fishing, cooking, and more in the medieval continent of Pywell. We can guess that the Crimson Desert release date will arrive either in April, June, or July of next year. However, nothing has been confirmed yet, so keep your eyes on this page as more information heads our way. In the meantime, you can read our list of the best single-player games to tide you over while we wait on more Crimson Desert updates. Split Fiction is an upcoming action-adventure video game developed by Hazelight Studios and published by Electronic Arts. As with Hazelight's previous game, It Takes Two, Split Fiction was specifically designed for split-screen cooperative multiplayer, which means that it must be played with another player through either local or online play. In the game, players assume control of either Zoe or Mio, two authors who both become trapped inside their own stories. The two strangers must work together to escape and overcome numerous challenges along the way, as Mio's science fiction story interweaves with Zoe's fantasy story, putting both characters in grave dangers. The game is an action-adventure video game played from a third-person perspective, requiring players to complete platforming challenges and occasionally combating against hostile enemies. Each stage is often accompanied with a unique but one-off gameplay mechanic. For instance, the two may be commanding dragons in one stage, while wielding a laser sword in another stage. The ability for both characters within each stage is also different, meaning that the two must collaborate with each other and utilize the respective abilities of their playable characters in order to progress. There are also side stories in each stage, with each also featuring an accompanying gameplay mechanic. A team of 80 people built the game using Unreal Engine 5. The two characters are named after Fair's two daughters, and Fairs compared the game's narrative to that of a buddy movie, as the two characters started as complete strangers who must slowly bond with each other in order to survive. Fairs wrote that one of the biggest challenges developing a game with diverse gameplay mechanics was to ensure that each mechanic was fully polished. While a gameplay sequence utilizing a certain gameplay mechanic may only last for several minutes, the team had to work on them for months to ensure its controls were sufficiently intuitive. Split Fiction was announced by Hazelight Studios and its game director Joseph Fares at the Game Awards 2024. As with Hazelight's previous games, it will utilize a Friends Pass system, in which owner of the game can invite a friend to play together for free. It will also support cross-platform play at launch. As with Hazelight's previous games, Split Fiction will be published under Electronic Arts' EA Originals label. Assassin's Creed Shadows. After years of wolfish fans howling at Ubisoft's moon about setting an Assassin's Creed game in feudal Japan, the bright round orb finally turned and said, "Fine, now shut up." Assassin's Creed Shadows will split the player's time between two characters, Knight Lovin, Ninja Neo, and Swole Samurai Yasuke, as they tear about 16th century Kyoto or Osaka in the dying years of a brutal civil war. They'll be using some stealth tricks new to the series, smoke bombs, shadow skulking, and lying on their bellies, and performing some of those efficient double assassinations we've seen in Creeds gone by. We're also told it'll reboot the modern-day frame story that almost always accompanies the games. This usually involves a bunch of sci-fi DNA memory nonsense, but Yuba folks have said this time it'll enhance, rather than overshadow, the historical journey. I haven't actually completed an Assassin's Creed game since Ezio's Brotherhood. I get bored and give up about halfway through. Do they still end with a bunch of Chariots of the Gods nonsense? I guess fans will find out in spring next year. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. Henry of Skalitz is back in Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. A little older, a little stronger. Well, that all depends on how you decide to play him in this RPG set in 15th century medieval Europe. With a massive open world, Henry's quest to avenge the death of his parents is as filled with diversions as ever, from the downright dangerous to a little bit silly. Whether you devote yourself to the blade or take up blacksmithing, enter combat loud or in stealth, the approach you take is up to you. Somehow more ambitious than the impressive first game, the visceral first-person combat is where it really stands out. Even crossbows join the mix this time around. Eternal Strands. It might have an unfortunately forgettable title, but Eternal Strands, from former Dragon Age creative director Mike Laidlaw's Yellow Brick Games studio, is intriguing stuff. It's a fantasy action RPG inspired by the likes of The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Shadow of the Colossus, with a bit of Monster Hunter thrown in as players venture out into a cataclysm-struck, open-zone world, scrambling around 25-meter-high climbable creatures known as the Arcs in order to secure resources needed to create new weapons and armor back at a base camp. Core to all this is the much-touted interplay between protagonist Bryn's magical abilities and the environment, its shifting temperatures and a supposedly next-generation physics system, which promises unprecedented reactivity. What that means in practice remains to be seen, but it has the potential to be fascinating. Grand Theft Auto 6 is officially deep into its development. After weathering years of rumors and even one sizable leak, we've experienced its first reveal trailer and had details about the GTA 6 setting, characters, story, and release date confirmed. We know it will launch sometime in 2025, on consoles, at least. We have a wait ahead, especially with Rockstar feeling no pressure to hurry, while GTA Online is still crushing it after a decade. So don't bait your breath just yet, at least not until we get a nice close-up at GTA 6, because Rockstar doesn't like to rush for anyone or anything. Until that day, we'll be here gathering up any and all info that slips out for our enjoyment. The GTA 6 reveal trailer is light on details, and is way more about getting across the vibe of a modern, social media-infused Vice City. Portions of the video emulate Instagram and TikTok-style social media posts, which could provide some interesting gameplay twists depending on how, or if, the social mechanic is integrated into the game. The reveal confirmed many rumored and leaked details, that our main characters Lucia and Jason would be a Bonnie and Clyde-inspired criminal duo, and that it would be set in the GTA series' Miami analog, Vice City. We got hints about the story, including a prison stay for Lucia, a mystery heist the duo is working towards, and their apparent romantic involvement. Doom: The Dark Ages is an upcoming first-person shooter game developed by ID Software and published by Bethesda Softworks. It is intended to be the 8th main entry in the Doom franchise and the 3rd installment of the modern series, following Doom Eternal 2020. Doom: The Dark Ages is a prequel to Doom 2016 that follows the rise of the series' protagonist, the Doom Slayer, as he becomes the last hope of a kingdom fighting against the forces of hell in a techno-medieval setting. Doom: The Dark Ages throws you against demonic forces in a techno-medieval setting. Think castles, siege weapons, and maybe even the one-eyed floating cacodemon wearing a crown. More importantly, for fans of ripping and tearing, you are now armed with a chainsaw-mounted shield, making literal the phrase, "The best defense is a strong offense." What an incredibly bold reimagining of a classic franchise. I have loved Doom from day one, so playing in a world that feels fresh yet extremely relatable will be amazing. Avowed is shaping up to be one very exciting upcoming RPG from Obsidian Entertainment. As the studio behind the likes of Fallout, New Vegas, Neverwinter Nights 2, The Outer Worlds, and Pillars of Eternity, there's plenty of reasons to look forward to a fresh adventure from the developer. Not least because Avowed will bring us back to the Pillars of Eternity universe in the world of Eora, with a flexible combat system that will let us chop and change up our dual-wielding loadout with everything from guns to magic spells. The new RPG is certainly one of the most anticipated upcoming Xbox games of 2025. Avowed is a new RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, combining magical spellcasting and melee fighting in a lush fantasy world called the Living Lands. That speaks to the wealth of opportunity afforded to you, allowing you to easily shift between multiple combat setups, overlapping fire, ice, and ground spells with swords, axes, and shields, dual-wielding pistols or wands to become a powerful gunslinging mage, and plenty of other combinations. The end result is designed to make you feel as if you're carving your own path through Eora. There's support for first-person and third-person camera perspectives too, and the promise of multiple endings depending on the choices you make throughout the campaign. Obsidian also promises that you'll have plenty of abilities to unlock, skill trees to invest in, and the option to individually upgrade weapons should there be a type you're particularly drawn to. Ghost of Yotei is an upcoming action-adventure game developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It is a standalone sequel to the 2020 game Ghost of Tsushima. It is set to release for PlayStation 5 in 2025. Ghost of Yotei centers around the theme of underdog vengeance. The story is set in Hokkaido, Japan, in 1603, 329 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima. Players will take control of Atsu, a female warrior who adopts the persona of the ghost at the dawn of the Edo period. Developers have claimed that players will have more control over Atsu's narrative and choices compared to Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Yotei's setting was inspired by Sucker Punch Productions' multiple visits to northern Japan. Creative director Jason Connell was struck by the beauty of Mount Yotei, staring at it for hours. The development team recorded nature sounds at Shiratoko National Park. Creative director Nate Fox wanted a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima 2020 to maintain its core elements, transporting the player to the romance and beauty of feudal Japan. The game was revealed during PlayStation's State of Play presentation on September 24, 2024, and it was nominated for Most Anticipated Game at the Game Awards in November 2024. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, is a full remake of the critically acclaimed Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, originally released in 2004. Developed by Konami, this remake aims to modernize one of the most iconic stealth action games while staying true to its original vision. This game serves as a prequel to the entire Metal Gear saga, providing the origin story of Big Boss, Naked Snake, one of the most complex and legendary characters in video game history. Set during the Cold War in the 1960s, players are dropped into a dense Soviet jungle where survival and stealth are paramount. The story revolves around Naked Snake's mission to rescue a Soviet weapons designer, sabotage a nuclear-equipped superweapon, and confront his former mentor, the Boss. This conflict dives deep into themes of loyalty, betrayal, and the harsh realities of war. If you're a fan of immersive stealth gameplay, Snake Eater is a masterclass in environmental interaction and strategic survival. The remake promises to retain the core mechanics that made the original a classic, while enhancing them with modern controls and realistic physics. The stealth system in Snake Eater is not just about hiding behind walls. You need to adapt to the environment using camouflage patterns and face paint to blend into the surroundings. The camouflage index is a percentage meter showing how well you're hidden. Choosing the right pattern for each terrain, be it dense jungle, muddy swamps, or rocky cliffs, directly impacts how easily enemies can spot you. Unlike many stealth games, this one adds survival elements. Snake must hunt wildlife for food, treat his injuries in real time, and manage stamina. You can catch snakes, fish, and even exotic animals to survive. Eating spoiled food or ignoring injuries affects performance, making the player constantly mindful of Snake's condition. Though not an open-world game, the level design encourages exploration and multiple approaches. You can choose to sneak past enemies, silently take them out, or even bypass certain areas entirely. This freedom of choice makes every playthrough feel unique. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the remake is powered by Unreal Engine 5, promising photorealistic graphics and highly detailed environments. The lush jungles, intricate character models, and cinematic lighting aim to create an immersive experience that feels both nostalgic and new. CLAIR OBSCUR Expedition 33 is a breathtaking action RPG developed by the French studio Sandfall Interactive. It's set in a dark, surreal version of Belle Époque Paris, blending fantasy, art, and science fiction into a world that feels hauntingly beautiful and ominously dangerous. The game's title, CLAIR OBSCUR, is a reference to the artistic concept of chiaroscuro, the contrast between light and dark, which perfectly reflects the game's atmosphere and themes. In this world, humanity is locked in a desperate battle against the Paintress, a mysterious and godlike figure who, each year, erases people from existence by simply painting their names into reality. The remaining survivors formed Expedition 33, a last-ditch effort to ascend the tower where the Paintress resides and put an end to her reign. It's a narrative dripping with existential dread, high stakes, and artistic symbolism. The gameplay in CLAIR OBSCUR Expedition 33 is shaping up to be an innovative blend of action RPG mechanics and turn-based strategy, drawing inspiration from both Final Fantasy and Persona, but with its own unique spin. Combat is turn-based but fluid, with real-time interactions during enemy attacks. Think of the timed button presses in games like Paper Mario or the Guardian Shield mechanics in Persona 5 Royal. You're not just selecting actions from a menu, you're actively dodging, parrying, and engaging with enemy attacks to minimize damage. Players will control a squad of characters, each with distinct abilities and combat roles. Some may excel in direct combat, while others might manipulate the battlefield or support teammates. This party dynamic encourages strategic planning for battles, rather than just brute force. Magic in this world is heavily tied to artistic expression. Abilities feel like strokes of a brush or bursts of paint across the battlefield. Imagine conjuring massive ink-based beasts or warping the environment using spectral colors. It's as if every spell you cast leaves an artistic imprint on the world. This game isn't just another action RPG. It's shaping up to be an artistic masterpiece in both narrative and gameplay. The concept of using paint and art as both a weapon and a storytelling tool is incredibly fresh. The setting, a dark, twisted version of Belle Époque Paris, is unlike anything else in gaming right now. If you're tired of generic fantasy worlds and cookie-cutter RPGs, CLAIR Obscure Expedition 33 offers something bold, creative, and atmospheric. It's a game that seems to ask players to think deeply about survival, creativity, and existential dread while delivering fast-paced and tactical combat. CLAIR Obscure Expedition 33 is slated for release in 2025, though an exact release date hasn't been confirmed yet. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, is the sequel to 2019's Death Stranding, developed by Kojima Productions and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Once again, Hideo Kojima, the legendary game designer behind the Metal Gear Solid series, is at the helm. Known for his unconventional narratives and blending of cinematic storytelling with gameplay, Kojima is taking this sequel into even more mysterious and ambitious territory. Set several years after the events of the first game, On the Beach continues to explore a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by the mysterious phenomenon known as the Death Stranding, where the line between life and death has been blurred. This time, the focus shifts to the global stage, with protagonist Sam Porterbridges and new characters embarking on a dangerous journey to expand the fragile reconnections of humanity beyond the shores of the United States. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, retains the core mechanics of the first game but builds upon them with new layers of complexity, strategy, and immersion. The first Death Stranding turned simple traversal into an art form, and the sequel seems to double down on this. Expect to navigate treacherous, more diverse environments beyond the original's mountainous terrains. New biomes, possibly including dense forests, desert landscapes, and decaying cities, challenge players with dynamic weather systems and environmental hazards. Carrying and delivering cargo remains central, but now players have more tools and vehicles to manage and protect their deliveries. Trailers and footage have teased more customizable delivery equipment, which could offer deeper strategy when planning routes and managing resources. While the original game focused more on stealth and avoidance, On the Beach appears to introduce more advanced combat mechanics. Enemies seem more intelligent and varied, and Sam now has access to new weapons and gadgets that could significantly alter how players engage with threats. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, isn't just another sequel. It's a continuation of one of the most original and divisive games in recent history. The first game was a bold experiment in storytelling and gameplay, and the sequel seems to amplify everything that made it special. For fans of thought-provoking games that challenge the very idea of what a game can be, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach is shaping up to be a monumental release. Whether you loved or hated the first game, one thing is certain: this sequel will have the entire gaming world talking. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, is scheduled for release in 2025, exclusively for PlayStation 5. Kojima Productions has hinted that development is well underway, but no exact date has been announced yet. Borderlands 4 would continue the series' signature mix of first-person shooting and role-playing elements with a distinct blend of comedy and irreverence. It is expected to follow in the footsteps of Borderlands 3, which introduced the game's Vault Hunter system with distinct characters and skill trees. Borderlands 4 might push the boundaries of the franchise further by introducing a wider variety of enemies, environments, and deeper RPG mechanics. The story would likely revolve around new characters, and potentially even returning fan favorites. While there's no concrete plot yet, it's safe to say that the universe will once again be in danger, and it will be up to the player to team up with friends or go solo as one of the next generation of Vault Hunters. Expect a mix of high-stakes missions, wild new settings, and an overarching narrative filled with twists and turns. The gameplay for Borderlands 4 is expected to build on what made its predecessors so enjoyable, a mix of loot-driven progression, fast-paced shooting, and cooperative multiplayer. In Borderlands 4, the loot system will undoubtedly be expanded. Expect even more randomized guns with quirky effects and a deeper emphasis on loot rarity, which is a hallmark of the series. Gearbox has always prided itself on creating an unpredictable and fun loot experience, and the sheer variety of weapons and abilities will likely take center stage again. again. There will probably be new Vault Hunters to choose from, each with unique abilities and skill trees. The series has always encouraged different playstyles, so expect to see more opportunities to tailor your character to your preferred combat approach, whether that's through powerful guns, elemental attacks, or a combination of both. There may also be crossovers with characters from previous games in the series, or even entirely new characters that add variety to the gameplay. Borderlands 4 will almost certainly feature the co-op multiplayer mode that is a staple of the series. Whether you prefer to play solo or team up with up to 3 friends to take down enemies, the multiplayer experience is set to be a highlight of the game. Shared loot systems, scaling difficulty, and team-based abilities are likely to encourage players to experiment with different strategies and work together to defeat tough enemies. In conclusion, Borderlands 4 is shaping up to be a must-play title for fans of the series and newcomers alike. Whether you're a veteran of the Vault Hunter's adventures or just diving into the chaos for the first time, this next installment promises to offer hours of laughter, loot, and explosive action. As of now, there's no confirmed release date for Borderlands 4. However, based on the franchise's typical development cycle and current rumors, we may see it debut sometime in 2025 or 2026. This could coincide with next-gen hardware improvements, offering players a fresh and visually stunning experience.